Good afternoon, welcome to Advertising Week Europe, me Andy Johnson. I'm going to talk to a man now who's had a very important job, dealing with the likes of me, the media, here at this event. Nick Giles from Seven Hills PR, very good afternoon to you. How's it been?
It's been absolutely brilliant, thanks Andy. We've had a fantastic first few days, enormous footfall from both the delegate community but also from the media. So we had several hundred press registered for the week as we started on Monday morning. Saw a really good spike on Monday with more and more press coming through the door. So there is a lot of interest in the agenda, and I think from our perspective, one of the key goals was to really establish Advertising Week Europe as an agenda-setting event for the business community, and I think it's definitely achieved that goal in its 5 years in London.
Of course, one of the big things you had to deal with first thing on Monday was the whole Google fallout. Tough call for a PR person. You got through it. There was a lot of interest in that, wasn't there?
Inevitably, there was enormous interest. I think it speaks to the quality of the programme that Matt Schechner and the Advertising Week Europe team curate, and actually the partnerships that help support the event. So from my point of view, I think Google did a terrific job on Monday. They stuck to the plan, stuck to the schedule. They were happy to welcome press into that session, which was a scheduled session for delegates, and took the questions head on. So they didn't duck anything. They engaged in the conversation, and inevitably that story has dominated the first day or so of Advertising Week. But what's been really interesting is to see everything else that's going on the programme. We've had an amazing array of people through the door, and not only the sessions here at the Picture House, also those kickstarting the day at Ronnie Scott's. We've had some fantastic contributions from the business community, from the world of politics, the world of media. So I think, yes, that was a very big story that kicked off the week. It generated headlines all around the world, but we've been seeing a wealth of other stuff coming out of these corridors and halls.
Of course, one of the main things now is how the press has had to adapt in itself. And even in my time in the media, the industry has changed beyond all recognition. The things we're talking about every day here at Advertising Week are absolutely bang on the nail for the media, aren't they now? Because they are working across loads of different platforms now, and they're reaching audiences in ways which they couldn't even dreamed of just a few years ago.
I think Advertising Week Europe is very relevant for the media community, and I think the programme and the cast of speakers is of enormous quality. So, just today we've had Liam Fox talking alongside Rohan Silver at Ronnie Scott's about brand Britain in a Brexit world. Just a few hours later on the main stage here at Picture House, we've had Michael Gove in conversation with Stephen Kinnock. So it's a high quality, high calibre event that's able to attract the figureheads of the current political landscape, but also the leaders of the top media and digital organisations.
And that's the real secret, isn't it? Being able to provide that peg for the media. I mean, obviously I know as a journalist in many years, and working now as a freelancer with PR companies as well, you need that peg, and there are plenty of those things that really are attracting the media in. And of course we can't ignore the world has turned on its axis since this time last year politically, hasn't it, with Donald Trump and also with Brexit here. But at this event we've been able to cover that and covered it in a way that really attracts media attention as well.
Well, I think Matt and the team would be the first to acknowledge that over the 5 editions of Advertising Week Europe, the actual makeup of the programme has evolved to reflect the times that we're in. And right now it's clearly a hugely contested, interesting period politically, socially, both in the UK, across Europe and into the US. And I think if you have an interest in current affairs and the fast-moving political landscape, arguably there's no better place to be this week than hearing from the great and the good of business, media and politics.
Well, we do live in fascinating times. So the likes of me and you, who worked in the media, worked in PR, it is unprecedented, isn't it? And it is fascinating to work at the moment, seeing what's going on and being in the world as it is at the moment.
Well, I guess it feels unprecedented because we don't know anything different. It feels that there's there are fights to win and debates to have, and I think from the perspective of those that are coming through the doors here to participate in the discussions and hear what the speakers have to say and put their questions to them, I think it's really an attempt to understand how is the world shaping, what are we going to see over the next 2 or 3 years. And if I cast my mind back to 2014, 2015, the program was much more to do with the mechanics of the advertising and media business. A lot on data, a lot on programmatic, and I think the program for this year has been very, very cleverly curated and with a real focus on addressing the issues of today that are having impact on businesses and those people that are trying to shape their organisations in a very...
From a media perspective, that was key, I think, wasn't it, as well, being that savvy about, we can't ignore this, it's happening, we're all living in this world, let's incorporate it into the schedule to talk about it in a different way as well.
Well, I think Matt and the team had huge ambitions when they brought Advertising Week to London and to Europe from their home market in New York. And I think when it started, obviously, the immediate addressable community was the advertising, media and marketing community and the specific media titles that would support those industries. I think that what they've done brilliantly over the course of the 5 editions is to expand the general interest of the event so that it does appeal to the political desks at the mainstream national newspapers, the broadcasters that were all here and have been here this week to get the footage live. So I think it's for the general punter, there's an enormous amount on offer here. For those wanting to get the first-hand views of our political and business leaders, it's a fantastic place to convene. And
does that create more headaches for somebody who's in PR, or do you find it more interesting? Because at the end of the day, we're setting agendas here, aren't we?
It's vastly more interesting, and I think the goal when we started coming on board 3 years ago to support Matt and Advertising Week, get the message out. I think whether it was an explicitly stated goal or not, the ambition was to position Advertising Week Europe as an agenda-setting gathering for the business and general community, not simply something that would be of interest to individuals within the advertising and media community. And I think Matt, in particular, with the support of Rebecca Eves and the international team that he has in place, has done a masterful job at building a diverse and stimulating program, but also building the partnerships and connections across the board that mean that this is even possible. So you mentioned the Google story, that absolutely dominated day 1 and into day 2, but we had Eddie Jones, the England rugby coach here yesterday. He was on a panel about leadership and winning, speaking with Maggie Alfonsi, MBE, and his comments about what Warren Gatland should do with the Lions, made the lead story on the BBC Sport pages. So there is an enormous amount of content coming out of here that cuts through. Just before Eddie Jones spoke, we had Gina Miller here, the Brexit campaigner, and in a fantastic discussion hosted by The Week. And I think, at all stages of the programme, whichever screen or whichever auditorium you're in, there's a lot of great interest.
Tell me about work that I know you're very passionate about. That's Pitch at the Palace, something you've been involved in for some time now. Talk to me about that and how that's working at the moment.
Well, Pitch at the Palace is an initiative that is driven and supported by the Duke of York and his brilliant team led by Amanda Thirsk. It started in 2014, and my firm Seven Hills had a hand in helping create the initiative. Essentially, it's set up to create a platform for early stage businesses and founders of those firms to get up, present their case to a very influential audience of investors and business leaders and fellow entrepreneurs, and essentially forge the connections and have the opportunity to accelerate their own growth. So we're fast approaching the 7th edition of Pitch at the Palace, 7th main edition. There have been additional events specifically targeting key geographies. So Pitch at the Palace Africa has also been running for the last couple of years and gaining great head of steam. And I was privileged enough to host a session yesterday at Advertising Week Europe, showcasing 3 of the participating firms that have been through the process, pitched at the Palace. We had 2 winners, which was brilliant to see. And I think it actually is an initiative that helps convene those that can help early stage businesses fly and create the connections that no other pitch event really has the capacity
Great
to
see our young entrepreneurs and our entrepreneurs in general getting that kind of support, and if they can get in front of an audience at the Palace, they're doing pretty well, aren't they?
They really are, and I have to say there's a curation phase, there's an application phase where people put themselves forward, there's a selection phase which sifts out the best firms, there's a boot camp phase where people can actually practice and rehearse their pitch so that when they're in that situation at the Palace they're ready to go and they're ready to do their pitch in just 3 minutes, and they have a very short window of time to get it right. And what we've seen since is the result of that support, and there have been countless examples of businesses that have actually seen their business accelerate to remarkable exits. Firms such as Magic Pony, which was bought by Twitter for over $100 million.
Wow.
Vocal IQ, which was bought by Apple for a similarly large figure. And just this past month, a fintech business called Squirrel, which has raised somewhere in the region of £700,000 in a crowdfunding raise.
I hope you get a cut for all this, Nick, because it's your idea in the first place.
No cut whatsoever, but it's a brilliant not-for-profit initiative that the Duke has pioneered and championed and thrown all of his energy and resources behind, and that's been wonderful to see.
One of the other very exciting announcements today, of course, is that Advertising Week is going to be expanding into Australia.
That's right. This was announced on this stage early this morning, and I think it's part of Matt and the team's international expansion plan. So Advertising Week started in New York. It came to the UK 5 years ago. The first Advertising Week Asia edition happened in Japan last year, and they are also going to be having the first foray into Latin America with Advertising Week in Mexico next year. So it's part of the expansion plan. I don't know if Matt has ambitions to go further afield.
Even more global?
Well, I'm struggling to think where he should go.
But he can't go.
In fact, I think there are aspirations to announce another edition, but I think it speaks to the talents and the capabilities of the organising team that put these events on. And I have to say, we work on lots of events and we work with lots of events companies, but Matt and his team at Stillwell Partners are absolutely world class, and I think everybody here would attest to what a brilliant production this is. So wherever they choose to go, I'm sure it's going to be a similarly knockout gathering.
So Hal, we've got a day and a bit to go, loads to enjoy and look forward to yet. How do you actually relax after this? Do you go away and lie down in a darkened room, or are you straight on to the next project?
We will be straight on to the next project, and in fact a lot of my team are running with various other assignments. We've got a strong group here manning the various stages and the various venues, but frankly I find this really energising, so it's certainly not a case of kind of slumping into a soft comfy sofa on Friday. This gives, I think, everybody a real lease of life, an energy shot, an inspiration shot, and I can absolutely see why so many thousands of people pour through the doors every year. And
absolutely.
All power to Matt and the team.
Well, look, great to catch up with you again. Enjoy the rest of the week, and I no doubt we'll catch up again in the near future, and all the best with Pitch at the Palace as well.
Thank you, Andy, and keep up the good work.
I will, thank you very much. Fueled, of course, by caffeine. I will be packing my hat with the corks, just in case, to drop a subtle hint to the people organising the Ad Week in Australia, and, of course, the Factor 55 with my skin colouring. Keep up with us, #AW Europe.